town hall with presidential candidate Governor John Kasich, and we are here live in Chicago as the next big primary election day approaches. And we have an audience packed with mostly undecided voters and some Governor Kasich supporters. And I have many questions for Governor Kasich, but so does our live audience. And we're also going to take some questions from you at home. So now let's welcome presidential candidate, Ohio Governor John Kasich. Nice to see you, sir.
Thank you, Retta.
My first question to you, Governor Kasich, is there a path for you to get 1,237 delegates, or to secure the nomination of your party, will it have to be a brokered convention? And if so, do you fear a ruptured Republican Party?
Well, first of all, we've picked about half the delegates, and we have, of course, the other half to go. And there was this poll today, I think, I can't remember, NBC, somebody. Trump was at 27, Cruz was at 25, and I was at 24. So it's really, really jammed and close. And, you know, I think anything is possible this year, Greta, that somebody could get there. It's possible, but probably not. And I don't like to get too much ahead of myself because it's a process. But can you go to a convention and actually come out united? Absolutely. You know, I was a mere child when President Reagan, or Governor Reagan at the time, challenged Gerald Ford. Ford beat him at the convention. I was there. I was managing 5 states for Governor Reagan. It was the coolest thing in the world. Actually, I showed up at the convention, and this guy was working wanted me to help him, and I walked in. They said, one guy got sick. Could you handle 5 states for Governor Reagan? I had no clue what they were saying. I said, absolutely. And then I ran 5 states for him, and we lost, and we left the convention hall united, and Gerald Ford ended up being a great president and got the national tragedy of Watergate behind us. He didn't win, but it was very close, and it was fine, because I think at a convention, the delegates are very serious about picking somebody that can be commander-in-chief and the President of the United States.
Well, you had a big night last night in Michigan, a virtual tie for 2nd place, and a new Fox News poll has you in your home state up 5 points. CNN's poll came out, has you down 6 points. You have a job approval rate of 79% in your home state. Ohio, you better win Ohio, right?
We're going to win Ohio. That's not even a question for me. It's about what we do after that and all the places we have to go. But we're not taking it for granted. I mean, I'm working very hard there now, and so are all our team out there. And I'll go down for the debate, then I'm back, and I'll be living in Ohio and all over the state, which is what I always do.
There's reports say that you're going to meet with Governor Jeb Bush next day or two, and so Senator Marco Rubio. I assume you're going to ask for his endorsement. And
not necessarily.
What are you going to say to him then? What are you
going to go have a chat with him. I've known him for a while.
About what?
Well, he's going to want to know how's it going. I'm going to tell him how it's going. And no, I mean, he's following. You know, this is really a kind of a funny thing about, you know, I probably will ask him to support me, but he's a guy I've known for a long time, and I'm just going to tell him what's going on out here. And I know what he's concerned about is having somebody who can actually run the country, somebody who has experience and vision and all that. So I'm looking forward to seeing Jeb. And, you know, he campaigned for me when I first ran for governor. We have a nice relationship. And so we'll see what happens.
Right. Let me give you a hypothetical. You're President of the United States. You wake up this morning and you read or you hear the news from your aides that the Iranians have just tested 2 ballistic missiles, and on the side of them it says we're going to wipe Israel off the map. Doesn't violate the Iran deal. Does violate some UN Security Council resolutions. What are you going to do?
Well, first of all, I would want to hear all the details, and now what I would say after learning about the details is I would actually move to suspend the nuclear agreement, because these missile tests, and particularly with the inflammatory language about destroying Israel, is so bad, such a violation of the spirit of agreement. I would suspend it, try to get our allies to suspend it. I'd put the sanctions back on and say, look, we try to make an agreement with you. This is not just about all the crossed T's and dotted I's. This is also about the spirit of that agreement, which you now have violated. That's what I would do. Now, Greta, I've had, people don't usually, look, I've had a lot of experience in national security. I served on the Armed Services Committee for 18 years. And after 9/11, Secretary Rumsfeld invited me into the Pentagon after 9/11 to help with some of the problems they had there. I did not say we need to rip it up on day one because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. But now that this has happened, if I were president, I would call them and say, I'm sorry, but we're suspending this agreement. And while it may not be a direct violation, it is a violation of the whole intent of the improving of relations, and you violated the whole thing. And I would say, look, you get your act together and get back to us. That's what I would do.
Governor, we have a question from an audience member, from Nicole. Nicole, first of all, have you decided? And then secondly, what's your question?
I am undecided. I'm a registered Republican voter in Illinois, though. Governor Kasich, I am a 2015 college graduate, and I've seen a lot of my friends really struggle to find postgraduate employment. Either they're settling for jobs they're overqualified for, or they aren't finding anything at all. And all of these free college promises from the Democratic candidates really aren't all they're chalked up to be, because more people will graduate with college degrees. What will you do to specifically combat underemployment with recent college graduates?
Well, first of all, we're not going to have, free college because we can't afford it, and we're not going to do that. Well, there's a lot of things we need to do to drive down the cost of higher education. And by the way, I was in Michigan the other day. Do you know that you could go 2 years to a community college in Michigan, and it would cost you $6,000, and you can transfer all those credits to a 4-year school? I mean, can you imagine how much money you save when you do that? So the community college experience is one that we all ought to think about. And frankly, if we don't get a handle on these costs, I think these 4-year schools are going to be disintermediated. In other words, there's going to be dramatic change in the way in which we approach them. But look, we have to have a growing economy. It takes, I think, 4 things. 1, it takes reasonable regulation so you don't crush small business. When you overregulate, you kill small business. When you kill them, you're killing jobs for somebody like you. Number 2. You also need to have, you need to lower taxes all the time on businesses and individuals, because it sends a message to the job creators. And number 3, you have to have a plan to have some fiscal sanity. And, I made a speech one time back when I was in Congress, and I said, Congress spends like a drunken sailor, and this lady wrote me a letter, and she said, I'm deeply offended because my husband is a drunken sailor. But the fact is, with that, and let me say another thing to you. In my state, which is what I think we should do across this country, I would urge them all to do, when you enter the 2-year, or you enter the community college to pick up some experience, or you go to the 4-year school, you should be made aware. What are the jobs that are available? What is it that is your passion? And what is it that, do you know what that job costs, what that job pays? And by the way, this is what it takes for you to get one. In other words, we need to have somebody guiding us all the way through our higher education experience, so we don't ring up all this debt and then we go, we'd like to get a job, but there's no jobs. We know what the in-demand jobs are across this country, and we need to be training people for them based on your God-given passions and what you want to do with your life. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Governor, there's a lot of...
Let me also tell you, sometimes people say, is Kasich tough enough? I'm telling our universities, you will do this. I'm telling you, you don't mess around with me on this. I don't want any student walking in there and walking around in circles for 2 or 3 years, not getting a degree, ringing up the debt, and they're worse off than if they had never gone. Our universities are going to be doing this, and we need to do this in K through 12. We need to start, and we are doing it in our state, telling young people about occupations. What does a weatherman do? What does a policewoman do? What does a teacher do? And then as they get older, it becomes more sophisticated, and then they begin to realize a path for them based basically on the direction that they want to go. So, that's the way I think we have to think about it.
How are you going to get colleges to do that?
Well, I'll tell you how I get them to do it. I say you're going to do it, you aren't going to get any capital dollars out of me. I mean, you have to have some leverage. You have to have leverage. And one of the things that I would do as president is to show the governors across this country and the legislators about what leverage is. And frankly, they want to do it. They need to understand that you can't have people graduating without degrees, without jobs. And there are a lot of higher education institutions in this country that have 80, 90% graduation with 80, 90% in a position of where they can get a job. And when they do it right, it's really cool. And when they do it wrong, they need to change.
All right, let me ask another question. Suppose that you're a 55-year-old man or woman, you got 2 kids in high school, and you've worked for a company for 20 years, you've now been laid off, or you fear you're going to be laid off. And you're out there and you're worried to death. What do you tell that person?
Well, that is one of the scariest things. These are sort of the Trump supporters. You know, I'm 55 years old. I lost my job. And here's what happens. You go home, you fill out a resume, you go, oh, this is all going to work out for me, and you never get hired. It is a scary proposition for a man or a woman. And then over time, of course, you start to feel like you're losing your dignity, which is also a terrible situation. We need to have lifelong learning. Number one, I think that, you know, there's always the access to the community college. And there's always access to the community college to get the skills for the jobs that exist.
But who's going to hire the older? I mean, if you can get someone...
Because if you got skills, you'll get hired. If you have the skills, the problem is you don't have the skills and you're out trying to get them. So let me give you another thing that I think we can do. And we're trying to push on this. There are many job openings in Illinois and Ohio, all across this country. And what we really want to do is to get blocks of companies to come together and put online an education program that if they complete it, that they will be guaranteed an interview with a company that is involved in putting the curriculum together. It's really cool. So let's say you are not making a lot of money, you're working at McDonald's, you got a couple kids, you're a woman. Let's say you want to go to work in the healthcare. Okay, you want to work in a hospital. Well, we can get our hospitals to put together, like our insurance companies do, a curriculum. You can take it at your own speed. When you complete the curriculum and pass the course, you're guaranteed an interview with that company. Now, those are the kinds of things that are creative in the 21st century we ought to be doing. And, Greta, this isn't pie in the sky. These are real issues that have to be dealt with. Those are some ideas that I have. The other thing is, why did they lose their job? I want to move research or job training back to the states. The way the federal government works now is you have to lose your job, basically, before you have to lose your job before they'll train you for another job that you don't even have. So why don't we keep people on the job and train them when they're there and upgrade their skills so they don't lose their job? I mean, that's the way normal people would do it.
Governor?